What's up, everybody, and welcome to Growing Up Gaming, your weekly podcast where we meet a new person of the internet to discuss their childhood with gaming and how it inspired their lives today. My name is Mitch Power. Again, thank you guys so much for returning each and every week to the show. Hopefully you have subscribed on iTunes or Google Play, or, maybe given us a review or a rating or shared it with somebody. If you did, I really appreciate it, and I can't thank you guys enough. This week on the show, we have our guest. His name is Daniel Seel. I met this man on the Comedy Button Facebook group, asked to be on the show, and I said, of course, why not? Why wouldn't I? If you guys ever want to be on the show just like he was, you can go ahead and send me a tweet at GUG Podcast on Twitter, or you could also send me a tweet personally at MitchPower1116 on Twitter, and I'd love to have you on the show, and we can share everybody's stories. Without further ado, let's get things started with Daniel Seel. Do you remember what got you started? Do you remember what initially got you interested in gaming in the first place?
The easy answer is my mom. She was a big Mario lover when I was a kid, around like 3-4 years old. So we had a Nintendo in the house right when we could afford it. And my mom was always playing Pac-Man and Mario and Wheel of Fortune on the NES. And I played those with her.
Gotcha. So obviously that's really cool, at least that she was, at least supportive of gaming and actually introduced you to gaming. So that's really cool. Did you have brothers and sisters and stuff to also play games with? Did you guys kind of play as a family at all?
I had an older sister. She was kind of a tomboy, liked to be outside a lot. So we really didn't play games together, even though we got along real well. And my dad worked like crazy hours all the time. So it was pretty much just me and my mom played games together. And every now and then, like some neighborhood kids and stuff.
Oh, that's always fun. So then you mostly was NES at first. So then you and your mom would mostly play. Did you guys ever do any of the couch co-op stuff, like the Contras or anything like that? Or did you mostly just play? I mean, Mario's, in a way, I hate when some people compare Mario, like the first one, and say Mario's a two-player game when it's like, it is, but you're taking turns. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, so
it's an alternate one-player game.
Exactly. That's basically what it is. So that's when it gets weird. Like when some people are like, Mario's multiplayer. I'm like, I don't know what you could say. Yeah, technically you could hit two players and it just tracks separate lives, but that's not multiplayer to me. But so then do you remember playing specifically like any couch co-op or multiplayer, true multiplayer games, I should say, with her?
Not really. She was more into the single-player stuff. So we mostly just took turns. Now she would appease me once in a while and play Ninja Turtles 2 arcade with me, which is multiplayer, but she wasn't really into it. She would just play it just for me, pretty much. She
did the whole mom thing where you probably nagged her to death, and she's finally like, maybe if I play for 10 minutes, he'll stop asking for 2 months. And like,
pretty much.
Yeah, I get how that is. Like, my son still tries to, he'll want to play games and stuff. And I mean, it's just, the problem is, it's just, I work a lot. And then by the time I'm off work, he's grounded off his Xbox because of his grades. So then it's like, we got to find a time when I'm off work and you're not grounded. But of course it's funny because my son keeps saying to me, Dad, I'm higher level in Titanfall than you are. I'm like, well, yeah, kid, because you have all the time in the world to play while Dad works to pay for all this stuff, right?
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, I get the whole, I can imagine though, little you just like, Mom, I need help. Mom, I want to, let's play. And she's probably just like, fine, let's go.
She's like, can't we just play Pac-Man?
Yeah, right? What's wrong with Pac-Man? But you're like, Mom, I can't play Pac-Man with you.
She's a true, like, I think she was a retro gamer before retro gamer was an actual phrase, because even when like the newer Marios were coming out, she still just wanted to play Mario 1 or 3 or old school Pac-Man. That's all she ever cared about.
Well, it's funny because like we say retro gamer, but to her that's just gaming. Like that's the way she grew up. Just like it's the same thing though too, because I mean, people will fixate on things from their past, and again, it's weird because you get that like old person vibe. Back in my day, this shit was better. This new shit's not as good. You know what I mean? Like you get that like weird thing. But it's funny too because the same thing happens with music. Like you know, you grow up and you listen to certain music and you just like that music and you're just like, and then you get older and that becomes the oldie station and you're like, what the hell happened? Why is that on the classic station?
That very much happened to me early. Like, by the time I was 25, I hated all other music except mine.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you hit that wall, and everybody has a different wall, but everybody has that wall where they hit that wall and they're just like, I don't like new shit. I just don't like it. Or some people, you know, will continue to learn and listen to new stuff. I mean, gaming is actually, at least, you know, some people get stuck with games and they're like, fuck that, I just want to play Galaga. I don't want this new fancy 2-stick shooter bullshit. Like, I can't, you know, some people just don't want to adapt to it, but then, you know, some people are like, no, we'll adapt. And I don't know. Music, though, yeah, I want to say I hit that music wall. And it's sad because, like, even artists that I listen to the newer stuff, and I'm just like, nah, not as big of a fan.
The only there's only a couple instances where that's not still true. Like, the new Metallica album is
amazing.
Fucking amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah, there's certain artists. Well, also too, it's funny because, like, it in a way, I think everything hits this trend, right? Where, like, everything goes, you know, everything's awesome, right? Everything is awesome. I won't do that. So everything is awesome for a little bit. You love an artist, and then they're like, we want to go in a different direction. And then they go in that different direction, and two different things happen. Either everybody hates it, and they stop making music entirely. Or everybody hates it, but they still stick around because they liked you so much from the old shit that you go back to the old shit, and you are just, like, revitalized again. And that Metallica completely did that.
Oh. God, dude, when they started releasing those videos on YouTube one at a time, that was, oh my God, that album is just too freaking good.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even a huge Metallica fan back in the day. I mean, I liked Metallica and a lot of my friends were big fans and stuff, but then this album hit and I was just like, holy crap.
Yeah, it's really good. And it's funny too, because, like, some games go through those kinds of ups and downs too. Like, you know what I mean? It's so funny because now there's always trends, but, like, my favorite thing in the world is, like, there's trends that have happened and people rejected it so hard that they got away from it so quick and went back to the old model. Like, do you remember when there was like online passes? Do you remember that shit?
Yeah, EA really tried to push that stuff.
Oh yeah, there was online passes, and then everybody's like, these are awful. No one likes these. And then they were like, so sorry, we'll go back to the way everybody liked it. And now, in a way, depending on the company, it's like season passes are going that route now. Because, like, they started slowly doing season passes, and, like, you know, people were like, yeah, this is cool at first. And then every game had a season pass, and then they started pissing people off because it was dividing the community. Now there are some games, minus Call of Duty, that are going back to no season passes, but they're just doing microtransactions to make up the difference in cost. Like,
right.
Halo did it, Gears did it, Battlefront is doing it. Like, I appreciate that very much. Like, very, very, very much. Because
the weird thing is I don't mind the season pass so much if it's done well. Like, what's the game I'm thinking of? Dang it, I can't think of it now. Anyways, there's some season passes that, like Fallout, okay? I wasn't a big fan of Fallout 4, but they did well with the season pass. It was $30 unless you didn't buy it until 4 months later, then it was $50 or whatever.
Right.
And they dripped content the entire time. So that's okay. I don't mind that so much, but it's the Call of Duty season pass that's $30 and you get 2 maps, then 2 maps, then 2 maps.
Yeah,
that is not $30 to me, you know?
I think Battlefront was the worst one because Battlefront's base game was so basic and had such little content, and it's like, oh, you want the rest of this? It's another $50. And then everybody hated that. So now Battlefront 2, they got their shit together, and they're like, sorry, guys, no season passes. I mean, they went a
totally different way now, though.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, again, like, the whole thing with the microtransactions is you don't have to buy them. Everybody gets pissed. By the way, Shadow of War, I played that game for 75 hours. I did not buy one microtransaction, and I had a blast with the game. So everybody that's all up in arms, shut up. Stop it.
And people gave Destiny 2 a hard time when it first came out about microtransactions, and I play the absolute shit out of Destiny 2. I'm a big fan, right? They have Bright Ingrams. You can buy them for $5, $10, and $20, whatever. But the thing is, if you actually play the game like someone that likes the game, you get so many of those, you don't even think about buying them.
Right, exactly. So again, no, I'm not going to blame the companies for giving an option to make money, because real quick, companies don't make the games to not make money. Like, they're trying to make a profit. So again, here's the thing: as an adult who's matured, I'm like, I get where you're coming from. Y'all want money. I would want money too. I get it. But yeah,
that's the thing. I paid $60 for Destiny, and I'm going to play it for 1,000 hours.
Yeah.
After that first 60 hours, they kind of need to make more money.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
So I'm going to buy their expansion pass, and maybe I'll throw them $5 for Bright Ingrams once in a great while. But
I did that for Halo 5. Halo 5. I played the hell out of Halo 5. There was never a season pass. They added all these modes, all this content, all this shit for free, and then they put the gold rec packs on clearance, and I had already busted my ass and I had a majority of them, and I was just like, you know what, fuck this. I've played this game so much, they deserve my money, and I bought that, and I basically unlocked everything else that I needed to. But yeah, I mean, games like that, you know, they always go through those trends and then they go back and everything. But you know, at least, you know, you can't make everybody happy though, but that's okay. But back in the day, games didn't even have that shit. You just, you know, you bought a game and you enjoyed it or you didn't. And then,
but then also they didn't have the 300-person teams and 3.5-year development cycles, and you know, they weren't spending $150 million to make a game. You know,
they had 12 colors on the screen.
right.
And that was pushing shit hard back then. They were like, oh my god, we got to put 16 colors on the screen. Damn it, what are we going to do? You know what I mean?
Or oh my god, the soundtrack's too big. We have to add an extra sound chip. Oh god.
Oh, no, we just increased the game. By the way, back in the day, if everybody remembers the Super FX games that had like the actual extra graphic processor on the cart would make your games cost actually more money, which is it's crazy to think about that. Like, if they try to do that today, like, oh, by the way, this game has super duper 4K. And you're going to pay us $90 for this game instead of $60. People would lose their goddamn minds. But everybody forgets, man, that games used to cost so much more back in the day. And certain games cost more just because of how graphically intense they were or how big the game was, which is insane. But that was just logistics back then. Like, hey, this game costs more to produce because of X, Y, and Z. So guess who's going to pay more?
Or how long the game was even.
Right. Yeah. Like,
because you had games that were 4 discs long, you know? Or Nintendo 64 was the big one on that, because their cartridges, the third parties had to buy the cartridges from Nintendo to put the game on the cartridge.
Nintendo
so it was
stranglehold
super
on that shit.
Expensive for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, so their games were $85.
And then you wonder why a lot of things started going to PlayStation, mixed with that and the fact that CDs were cheaper to make and easier to put shit on. And yeah, there's just Nintendo eventually got their shit together, but it's all right.
Yeah.
So man.
Speaking of Nintendo, I just have to say the Switch is one of the best systems I've ever bought in my entire life. I absolutely love it.
I'm glad you like it. I have it. I enjoy it. I don't dislike it, but also too, I'm mostly using it for the Nintendo exclusives. Mario Odyssey's great. Kart's great. Zelda's great. But yeah, and like also good thing you can actually go buy them in stores now, so that's good. Like, you don't have to go like fight someone at a Target at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday to go get a Switch. You know, at least you can just kind of walk into a store now for the most part and get it. So
yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I did stand in line for 6 hours the day it came out to get mine.
But you had to. Like, that's the thing. Like, at least Nintendo has gotten to the point now where that whole artificial shortage bullshit on at least the Switch isn't a relevant thing anymore. Like, you can go into a Best Buy and just be like, oh, hey, there's a Switch right there. I'm just going to buy it now.
The one thing I'll give them credit for this time around is, A, they picked up production on the Switch pretty quickly, but B, I heard some insider info. Don't quote me. I don't know how actually true this is, but when they were making the NES Classic and when they were making the Switch, they share a chip. That chip is also shared with iPhones. And Apple was ramping up production for the 8 and the X, so they bought up all these chips, and there's only 2 manufacturers in the world that make them. So Nintendo got completely fucked over, and that's why there was a shortage of everything.
That could be completely possible, because real quick, it's not like these things are just made with magic. There's like actual raw materials that need to happen for this shit to work. So
it was just one of the little chips that they just could not get a hold of.
Oh, I believe it. So speaking of Nintendo, so you went Nintendo. Did you continue down that road of just Super Nintendo, or did you go to Genesis route, or what did you end up doing?
Well, our family was pretty poor growing up, sob story, boohoo, but my mom knew how much I love games, so she always tried her best to make sure I had the new game that I wanted. But, so I think with how Christmas fell or something where there's a sale or whatever, I kind of wanted the Super Nintendo, but my mom couldn't get it for me, so I got a Genesis, and I actually ended up loving the Genesis. So I did end up going Genesis after Nintendo, but I got a Super Nintendo eventually, but it was probably once the 64 was getting close to coming out or something like that. But I liked the Genesis a lot as a kid. The whole Sonic attitude phase when you're a kid is actually kind of cool.
It's so funny because, like, if you're that age, like, if you're the right age for Genesis, it's all like, Sonic's edgy, Sonic's, like, he's super cool, he's got this attitude, and you're just like, yeah, I want that attitude as well, blah, blah. And it just, like, catered to that generation, especially at a certain age, right? I mean, It's funny because, like, I'm sure older, like, people or older fans of gaming at that time might not have been the same. They're like, I don't give a shit about that. I want to play Mario. Like, they didn't care about the attitude stuff, but
all the older people at that time were going, all the amazing RPGs are coming out on Super Nintendo.
They had a brain in their head, and they're like, yeah, we'd rather play games that require our intelligence, not just holding right and hitting a button to jump.
They were worried about Secret of Mana and Mario RPG and
right. And I'm all like, let me play Vector Man and Comic Zone, and they're like, whatever, kid. I liked it. I had a Genesis. I didn't have a Super, and I don't know if I was a product of that. Like, oh man, this attitude's cool. More or less, like my uncle. Like when I went to go visit Texas, my uncle just had a Genesis because of NHL '93. And I remember I didn't know any rules of hockey. I just remember you could hit people and fight. And I was like, well, this is a fun game. And then it just grew from there. It's not even a matter of like, I don't like Mario. I thought Mario was lame or anything. It was just like, oh, my uncle has this. I just got used to playing that. So that's what I asked for Christmas. And that's, what I eventually ended up getting. But it's weird because you look back on certain games now and your nostalgia makes it better than it was, or it's still fun to you just because of you remembering how fun it was. Like some games you'll go back on and go, this game is trash. This game is not good. But then certain games, even if it's trash, you still don't give a shit. You're just like, man, this game still brings back all these memories. That's fun. Do you remember particular Sega games that like brought those types of memories back, or did you ever go back and play any games that were trash now?
Funny you asked that because one game that you may or may not have ever even heard of, but it came for free with my Sega. It was of course I got Sonic 1 or 2 with the Sega. I can't remember, but I also got a game called Quackshot.
Sounds like the most 90s ass Genesis game ever. Quackshot.
Dude, it was Donald Duck, and he had a fucking plunger as a weapon. And you just went through these side-scrolling levels. It was Mario with Donald Duck, right? So, but I fucking loved that game. And I don't know why. I thought it was so amazing. And to go back now, that's probably the worst game in the world.
Well, again, the big thing is that, but the thing is, this still happens for me as well. Like, it still happens because there's that hype of getting something new. There's that hype of, like, being so fucking pumped about having the new item or watching the new movie or listening to the new album or whatever it ends up being, that in your head, you think, like, this is the coolest shit ever. Then you look back retrospectively and go, what the hell was I thinking? Because this is trash. But, again, I mean, it brought, it's that at the time, it was so new and you were just so happy to play it, and now you're just like, I don't know about that. Dude, perfect
I played
example.
A lot of those games.
Oh, yeah. Well, again, too, the other thing, too, is I think when you're a kid, kids are stupid. Like, they don't have formulated opinions. They don't have opinion. If you ask a kid what their opinion is on something, their only answer is, it's awesome, or it sucks. Yeah, they don't go into depth of, like, why is it good? Why is it bad? You know what I mean? So that it's, there's always that barometer of like just super good or super bad. But when you're a kid, especially when it's new and exciting, it's always good. Like, there's only when you hit a certain age you start thinking like, man, this actually isn't that good. Like this kind of sucks. I'm bummed I did this. I
think it's when you get old enough to read reviews and then you go, yeah, that's my opinion too.
Yeah. Well, the only thing is you just got to make sure that you avoid opinions or reviews like adjusting your own opinion. Like that's the only thing you just got to watch out for, because like some people latch on to reviews and they just start like, have your own opinion. Like, but yeah, you gotta get to a certain age. Like, the perfect example I give everybody that got overhyped and thought it was awesome and then it sucked was Star Wars Episode 1. Hey, guess what? Everyone and their mother was so happy the day that came out, and they were so happy when they saw it. And the best thing ever is if you go to YouTube and you look up interviews of people coming out of Episode 1, they literally have the biggest smile on their face. And they're like, it's the best movie ever. I'm so happy Star Wars is back. It's right where it needs to be, blah, blah, blah. And there was only one guy who interviewed, and he's just like, it was okay. I was like, that's the realest dude ever. If you find that guy out there, you give that guy you buy that guy a drink, because that dude was like the realest guy back then when everybody was super hyped. Everybody was probably like, dude, you're a hater. How could you not think that was amazing? And then they look back a year later like, bro, that movie wasn't good.
Oh yeah.
I love
that. I went to see that. I think I was like 13 years old when that movie came out, and when I first saw it, I thought it was amazing. I was like, "Oh, the pod racing!" And
again, like we were all just so happy to have it, and then you go back and look, and you're like, it wasn't that good. I will say though, like again, though, certain games I'll play, like Vector Man, like it's not like top tier. Like when people go back and go, do you remember any awesome games from the 90s? Nobody's going to say Vector Man, but for whatever reason, that's a game that I played that I just thought was awesome, because at the time it was like those pseudo 3D graphics, because it was like 3D graphics on a 2D, side scroll. Yeah. So that was around that time, and I was just like, in my head, I was just like, man, this game is cool, transforming into all these different, like things you can do. And again, it's not the greatest game in the world. It's not terrible, but I mean, I'm sure people out there would say Vector Man's trash, but in my opinion, I didn't give a shit, because that has such nostalgia that even if it's so bad,
pretty cool.
Yeah, I
mean,
thought it was cool.
It was if you like Transformers, you probably thought Vector Man was pretty cool. Yeah,
right, and that's what I'm saying. And I just like how unique some of the games were on Genesis, because they, in a way, Sega was probably just like throwing money at anybody, just saying, make some shit and hopefully we'll have a new mascot. Because, not saying Sonic, because obviously Sonic was ridiculously popular at the time, but like they were going out with just all sorts of new IP because they wanted something different. Like, they didn't, you had Mario, and then you had Mario Kart, and then, you had Diddy Kong or Donkey Kong Country. So like Nintendo already had their own established IPs. So like Sega was probably just like fucking throwing cash at anybody, like, yes, come up with new ideas. And then there was Vector Man, and then there was Comic Zone, just trying to have different guys. I liked Comic Zone. Anybody can shit on Comic Zone. I thought it was awesome. Like, I just thought it was very unique to like jump from panel to panel.
I don't think I played that one. I feel like I've played almost every Genesis game, but I don't think I played Comic Zone.
So yeah, Comic Zone was like, basically, it's the cheesiest plot in the world. Comic book artist gets struck by lightning, his comic comes to life, and he gets pulled into his comic. You have to fight your way out, blah, blah, blah. Like, it's of course the cheesiest plot in the world. But like the gameplay itself was panel to panel. So you'd go, it was like a beat 'em up. So you just side scroll in this panel, beat these people up, and then you would just jump into the next panel, which is a completely different situation. But what was cool is like there was different abilities. Like there was an ability where he could rip a page off the wall, like he could rip the page, turn it into a weapon, and throw it at people. And like, I just thought it was so unique, like that concept. I was like, man, this is really cool. And that was all hand drawn, obviously, so it looked cool. He could turn into his own superhero that he created in his own comic book. So like, when he got enough power, he would turn into this dude and like rip the pages where all these enemies were. It was just like, dude, it was just unique. But again, it was one of those one-offs. Like, I don't know how well it sold, or Sega was like, maybe we should avoid that one going forward. I don't give a shit. I thought it was cool.
Yeah, I got to go back and look at that. It actually sounds pretty neat. But the thing that was killing Sega at the time too was Nintendo. Yeah, they had all their established big shots for Nintendo, but they also were slowly leaking in all the Japanese stuff that had been out for a couple of years in Japan, and it's hitting America, and people are going crazy for it. So they didn't even have to come up with new stuff at a certain point because they're bringing in all this Square stuff from Japan that people are going gaga over.
Yeah, and that was like, because that was also when Japanese games like were the number one. Like there weren't a lot of, I'm not going to say there weren't any American made studios, because there were, but like just the majority of games were coming from Japan. And also too, it just fucked us over because like this Final Fantasy is this one, but in reality there's this one. Like it just started
5
meshing.
is 3.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It always messed things up. But I mean, yeah, like there was games where people were getting just like Phantasy Star, a lot of people were liking that, and all these Japanese games just started coming over. But also Sega and Nintendo were both Japanese companies, so it made complete sense. You know what I mean? Like for them to like start bringing that over to us and getting us interested in it. But also look at Square. I mean, Square released tons of RPGs that influenced a ton of games now. But now it's crazy because there's so many studios all over. That's in a way it seems like Japanese studios are still around, obviously, but it seems like there's other studios that are out there that are not in Japan that are becoming so influential now. Like it's because it's worldwide now. I mean, look at Witcher. Like that they're just a single studio in a country, and they're just making their shit, and they're doing a really good job. So now everybody's got their own hand in the pot of making games that are more influential, not just Japanese developers.
Yeah, and on them, they're out of Poland, I believe, and one big thing that strikes me about CD Projekt Red is I think because they gave away a bunch of free stuff early on in that game. Now, I mean, grant you, it was a critical success immediately, and it was a financial success immediately, but they gave away, little tidbits of DLC here and there, and I think it was like 15 or 16 things, may it be an armor set or a weapon or whatever, but they slowly trickled out all this free stuff to keep people kind of hooked, and everybody thought it was the nicest thing any developer's ever done. Oh, they're so great, blah, blah, blah. But also, it kept you on the bait and hook until the DLC dropped, and then everybody bought the DLC, you know?
That's another company of like, that's a good company of showing a model. Like inside the box, there was like a thank you letter for buying their game. I was like, "Aw, that's so cute." Yeah. They included a thank you letter, and then they were like, "Here's all this free stuff. We just want to keep people happy." And then people will continue to buy games like that and support companies like that because they're so thankful.
I would love to see the attach rate for that DLC compared to all other games out there. I bet it's incredible.
I bet that and the Bethesda games like Skyrim, Oblivion, and all those,
and Dark Souls. Like, if you play Dark Souls, you buy the DLC. Yeah. Like those have a heavy attach rate as well. But yeah, those three are probably have the biggest attach rate out there, and they just know how to do it. I don't know, man. It's so weird because, and it's weird that we bring that up because I bought the DLC for Witcher. I bought the DLC for Dark Souls 3. I bought the DLC for a few different Bethesda games, especially Skyrim, because I was in a real bad accident when that game came out, and I was bedridden for a couple months, and I played nothing but Skyrim.
Well, at least that was there for you. And that's another thing, too, is like people go through hard times, or if they're going through an injury or going through just bad situations at home or whatever the case is, at least there's games out there that help people pass time. And yeah, I can imagine Skyrim being a game that popped up. As long as here's the thing, and I'm always going to say this, and everybody's going to get weird with me. I prefer Fallout to Skyrim only because I'm not a fan of medieval and dragons and all that shit. Just like I don't watch Game of Thrones, not shitting on it. It's just the setting that weirds me out. However, the one rule that's odd is I don't like Lord of the Rings, but Shadow of War is fucking amazing.
Shadow of War is all about like getting all your things together and killing these. It's not even a Lord of the Rings game.
The whole Middle Earth and elves and orcs and all this shit, I'm like skipping all that. I'm like, I don't give a shit about any of this. I just want to play this game. I was like, if this game took place any other time period, I'd play it still. But that's the only thing that's odd, because like I tried Skyrim, and I'm like, and I'm not saying Skyrim's bad, right? Skyrim's a fine game. It's just the setting throws me off just because I'm not interested in it. So I'm like, but then Fallout, of course, is very similar game as far as just like open world exploration, tons of side quests, but you just have guns and shit. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. That's cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that a little bit better.
I mean, everybody has their preference, of course. Like with I play a lot of shooters, but I'm really into the sci-fi shooters. And I have friends that try to get me into, like, hey, let's play Call of Duty, let's play this, that. I, for some reason, bounce off of realistic shooters so hard. I just don't care about them.
It's so funny that you mentioned that, too, because, like, speaking of things that were old and stale and came back, World War II shooters. How fun is that?
God.
Remember, like, I want to say PS2 early. No, it was more like PS2 days. PS2, Xbox. There were so many Vietnam, World War II, just like Battlefield 42 or 43 or whatever. Yeah, all of these older shooters. Then everything started going modern as soon as Call of Duty 4 came out. Then everything started going way into the future. And everybody's like, okay, we don't want this shit anymore. Stop it. And then all of a sudden, Battlefield 1, Call of Duty World War II happened, and everybody's all in love with them again. It's just so funny.
Yeah, it's all cyclical, man, especially with those super long-running franchises, because there's nothing they can do that will prevent them from eventually getting stale.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. I mean, the only thing that's getting him now, the only thing I think that's helping out is just the graphical bump with, like, you know, Xbox One X and, like, all these 4K graphics and, like, all this shit. Like, that's the only thing that's making people, I think, super interested again. I'm not saying, like, Call of Duty World War II is not a good game. Whatever. If you like it, I get you. That's cool. But, you know, I think now shooters, like you said, yeah, shooters for the most part, there's only so much an online shooter can do besides change the setting or make it look pretty. And, you know, the settings now, we've kind of explored everything. We've explored, like, World War I when guns were, like, around, you know, like, we've even gone, like, way back, and now we've gone way forward, so it's just, like, your different twist on it is what? The gameplay aspects of it, graphics, what else? Story, you know, if it's got a really good story, but the thing is now is single-player games, which sucks, are kind of dying off, which I hope they don't.
Yeah, games as a service just make so much money at this point, but I'll tell you what, the first team that gets the Destiny formula with a real deep questing structure built in, and they do it correct, is going to make $1 billion fucking dollars.
And
man.
I guarantee you EA's trying it right now.
I'm sure.
They have to.
I'm sure.
They'll do something.
Yeah, but the first one to get that really right, don't get me wrong, I love Destiny. I'm a huge advocate. I think everybody should fucking play it. But they just don't get the quest structure right. The first person to really nail that in that same type of game is just going to open their doors and money's going to fly in at them.
Absolutely. So going back, Genesis, please tell me you didn't continue down the Genesis route? Like, when you went 64 and PlayStation and Saturn and all that, where did you going from there?
I obviously don't have brand loyalty. I went from Nintendo.
Nobody does real fast. Like, nobody. Real quick, because I went from Nintendo to Genesis to PlayStation. Like, you just go with what's popular. Like, the brand loyalty thing, like, now it's really relevant because everybody's all like, because if you feel like you made the wrong decision, the internet will just troll you all day for it. But, like, yeah, brand loyalty back in the 90s, get out of here. No, it's fine.
Yeah,
where did you end up going? PlayStation?
Yeah, PlayStation, 100%. Like, when PlayStation came out and it was disc-based and everything was 3D and it was just so freaking exciting, man. And everybody else was overpricing their consoles at the time, and PlayStation came out and it's like, holy crap, it's not even that expensive. Like, I think that's where they really won. They went disc-based, and they didn't overprice their console, and that thing just sold like gangbusters, man.
I still love the fact that Nintendo partnered with Sony to make a like a Nintendo PlayStation, and Nintendo was like, nah, we're good. And Sony's like, cool, we're going to fucking destroy your world for the next 20 years. Like,
that was the worst mistake ever. And the funny part about it is, if they would have partnered with Nintendo, the rest of Sony from that point on has just been nose diving into the ground. Yeah. Really but the video game section of Sony has been nothing but amazing. And And who knows, if they would have partnered with Nintendo and not gotten all the money from all this video game success, Sony might barely be a thing at this point.
Right. Yeah, that's the one thing a lot of people, and again, I'm not trying to start shit between you console wars people, but like a lot of people, like Sony as a company is struggling in a lot of areas. They already dropped their phone, or majority of the phones. They dropped not TVs, computers. So they sold off their computer division. They dropped off all this shit. And PlayStation is really the thing that's making them the most money. So of course they're doing a good job focusing on that. The only thing I always argue is like Microsoft, even if they're not the number one selling console, Microsoft like it's like $4 billion last quarter or some stupid number. And you're just like, dude, they make money hand over fist with everything else they do, that really, if they're not number one, they're not going to be like, it's okay. I mean, it's not like our company rides on the fact that Xbox succeeds or doesn't. Of course, Microsoft wants them to, but they're also not like boasting like, oh, this, we have to have record numbers. We have to do this. They're just like, is it doing better than last year? Okay. That's all we care about. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is it making money? Do we lose money? No. Okay.
They could walk out and give away 1,000 Xboxes right now, and then nobody would blink an eye because they'd still be tax write-off. Money.
They'd come as a tax write-off. They'd be like, this is a donation. We're going to donate 10,000 Xboxes out there, and we'll just write it off as a company because, we made like $20 billion this year. We might need some write-offs somewhere.
Right. And that's the thing. I've heard a bunch of theories here and there, like, oh, if it doesn't pick up here, they're just going to shut down the Xbox division and blah, blah, blah. That's total bullshit.
You're out of your damn mind.
The Xbox can ride the coattails of Windows for the next 30 years and still be relevant. It's right. People are stupid. But
yeah. But anyway, so you went PlayStation, and then at that time, were you still heavy into gaming, or did anything else take up your time, or were you still pretty much into gaming?
There was only really one time in my life where gaming fell off, and that, of course, is right after puberty when you really like girls.
No, not females, right? Wait a minute. Becoming attracted to the opposite sex? No, get out of here.
Yeah, so high school, I played video games in high school, but it wasn't the center of my extracurricular activities. But up until high school, and then right after high school, getting into the workforce and stuff, right. I've always been a huge gamer. There was about 3 years where I played what most people would call casually, but other than that, man, I've played my entire life.
Yeah, same thing with me, which, girls play a part of it, but more for me was skateboarding. I got into skateboarding. It's funny, Tony Hawk Pro Skater got me into skateboarding, and then got me out of video games. I was just like, I'd rather skateboard than video games. And then basically my whole high school, I was just skateboarding. And then after high school, I was like, oh yeah, games are fun still. We should get back into that. So that's kind of what happened to me. So then PlayStation, what particular games do you remember playing there that kind of piqued your interest or, led you down the path you're on now?
So many. So many. PlayStation 1 might still have, for its time, I'm not saying still to this day, but for its time, while it was a present console, it may have had the best catalog to ever be made.
Yeah.
Dude, they had games from everywhere. I was a big sports guy at the time. They were making the first 3D football games. They were making the first 3D basketball games. I was big into those. Oh, hold on. My favorite PS1 game that nobody talks about, that was one of the best games I've ever played, was Einhander.
I've heard of it. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I've heard of it.
The funny thing is, it's a side-scrolling, infinite shooter where you have, a ship that you can upgrade and you fight, Mega Man-style bosses, kind of, at the end. But it was just so good. I don't know why I loved it as much as I did, but it was just, for its time, it was just... The mechanics of the game were just so crispy, so perfect. I loved that game so much.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't think anybody would argue that PlayStation compared to 64, PlayStation had better games. But also, too, that was just because also there was a lot more PlayStation games than there were 64 games, just in general. Yes, there was a lot of trash.
They were so much cheaper to make.
Right. They were a lot cheaper to make, so a lot of people had it. But also, too, 64, I'm not going to say 64 didn't have some of the best, people say Ocarina of Time is their favorite game ever, or Mario 64 is their favorite game ever, and I get that. But then I just think that at the time, PlayStation was able to pump out more games and had more variety to where I personally would agree with you and say that at the time, if you had to look at that generation, Saturn's a joke, so we don't even want to talk about that. But like PlayStation 64, obviously PlayStation I think had a better catalog. Just it had more variety, it had better quality stuff at the time, and again, 64 had its gems, just not as many as I think as PlayStation. Because like if you made like a top 20 games list from that era, I would say a majority of them would be PlayStation games. However, it's funny because even though a majority of those might be PlayStation games, the top 5 are going to probably be more 64. Yeah, exactly. So it's like, it's always funny because it's just think about that. Like Ocarina of Time, people will say is their best game ever.
Just quality, man.
Yeah, it's just quality.
It's just always been quality.
It was quality, just wasn't quantity, because it's like, how many amazing Nintendo 64 games were there?
I know.
And then you look at PlayStation, you're like, holy shit, there were so many more. But just, it's like, but these were really good.
Not that caliber.
Yeah, exactly. That's the difference. Yeah. And Nintendo's still in that kind of realm, I would say today, because they don't have as many games coming out each week as PlayStation or Xbox do. But when they do release a game, it's the next level. Yeah, exactly. Like right now, Mario, they released Breath of the Wild and Odyssey. And right now, those are the 2 like best rated games ever. Like, if you go on Metacritic or something, I think they were both like up there as like 2 of the highest rated games of all time, and they came out this year.
They're going to break each other's leg for Game of the Year is what's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, it's crazy. But again, like, it's funny because, Microsoft's like, we have a 4K Xbox. And then, Sony's just like, well, look at all these exclusives we had and all this stuff. And Nintendo's just like, cool, we're going to release 2 games that have the highest score you'll ever see in your entire life. Watch this. And again,
Nintendo's like, hold my beer. I'm going to put out a 720 game that crushes all of you.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to put out a 720 game that people won't shut the hell up about while you have your Xbox One X. By the way, I have an X. It's fantastic. But I literally was like, when Mario came out, I'm like, I have 2 weeks to play Mario because after I get my X, I'm not going to want to go back. But I got 2 weeks to play Mario, and thankfully I was able to play a good chunk of that. And yeah, it's really good. It's really, really good.
I'm in time management hell right now because I have, Shadow of War, Assassin's Creed Origin. I play Destiny 2 every day.
You got to temper that shit. You got to pick
Mario
a game.
Odyssey. And the one game that has just had me completely locked down for my, you have your game time, and then you have your like fidgeting game time, like on a cell phone or on the Switch portable or whatever. Right. And the only game I will play for that like small downtime gaming is Stardew Valley. That game is so fantastic.
I heard that will snatch people up and just make them sit there for hours and play.
It'll make you forget you have some of the best games ever made sitting beside you. It's so crazy.
Right. No, that always happens. So, so then you went PlayStation, and then did you have brand loyalty going forward from that? Then just PS2, PS3, kind of going down that road?
Very much did.
Now, again, you had a formed opinion, and that's when the brand loyalty happens. Because when you're a kid, you just want what's popular. You don't give a shit. But then as soon as you become a formed opinion, you're like, actually, you know what? I really do like PlayStation. But also, backward compatibility helped out with that a lot.
Yeah,
because you can just be like, by the way, I can play all these. I did
jump on the hype train of the 360 when it came out, just because their structure for like TeamSpeak and stuff. Sorry, I can't think of a better word than TeamSpeak because I'm old school nerd. But
right.
their whole TeamSpeak thing and playing online shooters was just so nice on the 360.
It was so much better. It was so much better. Yeah,
it was so much better. But when it came to sitting down to a single player game that had a real story that really engulfed you in it, like PS3 had some of the best games ever made. Yeah. But I definitely stuck with Sony. I jumped on the 360 hype train to play some shooters and stuff. But then when I wasn't big on original Xbox, I did have one, but I didn't play it much besides Halo. 360, played a ton of shooters on it. Then I actually have never owned an Xbox One. I've stuck with PS4 the whole time.
I will say, yeah, I mean, as far as it goes, like, the Xbox, I worked at a video game store when PS2 and Xbox era was happening, so, like, of course I did play all of it. Did you ever go back to Nintendo? Did you ever have a GameCube or anything?
Oh, that was always my extra console. Like, I always had a Nintendo. The only one I really bounced off of, even though I owned it, because I'm a fucking sucker, was the Wii U.
Yeah, everybody was a sucker for that. If anybody got that console and said, I thoroughly enjoyed the console and the exclusive games for this, they're a liar. They're a liar.
Well, except for, like, I know one kid that, like, he's probably, I think he's 11 now. He's a kid. He's my best friend's kid, and he loves everything Nintendo. So he loved his Wii U, which I'm glad he did.
Right.
But most adults absolutely did not like that console.
Again, kids are excited with what they got. They're happy. They'll say, this is the best thing ever. I get it. Wait for that adult. And it's sad now. But here's the thing. It's sad, but Nintendo doesn't give a shit. Like you just said, that's like your secondary console. Like everybody either has a PlayStation or Xbox and then the Nintendo console. You know what I mean? Like everybody has that Nintendo console still. Like everybody's like, oh, I got a PS4 and a Switch, or I have an Xbox One and a Switch. Like, everybody's like, you have to have that Nintendo console for those Nintendo exclusives. But now, and I don't know if Nintendo wants to change this or not, because I don't think they give a shit as long as they sell consoles. But like, you know, people's main console nowadays isn't a Nintendo console. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know anybody who's like, I exclusively play games on the Switch instead of PlayStation or Xbox. Like
unless you're 12 or under.
Unless you're 12 or under, right. And that's what I'm saying. Like younger kids, when that's their only option, then they're cool with it. But also too, I know some people buy games on Switch just because they like to take it with them. I personally don't travel a whole lot. So I mean, it's just basically another home console that I can pick up and take in the living room if I want to. You know, I don't like... So that's why I'm just sitting there like, well, if I'm going to buy a game, if I'm going to be sitting in front of a TV anyways, I'd rather just play it on an Xbox or PlayStation, you know, instead of the Switch. Like, my friend Mike just sent me a message and he's like, Doom on Switch is awesome. And I'm like, that's really good to hear. Like, I'm glad to hear that Bethesda gave a shit to put Doom on Switch, right? That's really cool.
And it bodes well for Skyrim coming up as well.
Correct. And even like Wolfenstein's coming out, which is like, wow, like that's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah. And again, like, well, I think it's more crazy just the fact that Nintendo allowed Doom on their console. Because I remember back in the day, Nintendo's all like, we're family friendly. We don't want all the blood and violence. And now there's like...
Have you seen the new Wolfenstein?
Yeah, it's graphic as hell. And I'm just like, I don't know.
It's crazy.
I hope they don't censor it. I hope they don't try to do any weird shit to censor it because it's on a Switch. Because also now, like, I think the fact that there's game ratings out there, you shouldn't censor a console version of it. I mean, I get censoring a country, like Australia's all weird with shit, you know, and I get that.
Everybody has different laws.
Right. Like, I get that, but like, I hope Nintendo doesn't say, oh, you have to take this scene out of Wolfenstein because it's on this. I doubt they will.
It would ruin the game because Wolfenstein, half of Wolfenstein's appeal at this point is kind of like the shock culture of it.
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
Like, that game has one of the craziest, most offensive stories I've ever seen. But it's a great game.
I will be, that's one of those, so like as an adult who doesn't have a lot of time to play games, when Mario Odyssey, Assassin's Creed, and Wolfenstein all came out the same day, I made the decision, I'm like, I'm buying one. And I will wait till Black Friday because I know the other ones are going to go on sale. So I bought Mario because I'm a smart person. Bought Mario, played it, loved it, beat it. I'm like, this is great. And then what happens? Wolfenstein is $25 at Best Buy on Black Friday. And I'm like, that's why I waited, because I'm going to get that. Dude, that's going to be a bad day. Because basically everybody who waited, all these people did this earlier in the month. But on Black Friday, I'm getting Assassin's Creed, Wolfenstein, Evil Within 2, South Park, all because they're just dirt cheap. And I'm just going to be staring at 4 games like, I guess I'll start playing these one by one, because I hate to be that person that jumps between story-based games just because I get lost or I forget what happened. And I'm like, dude, what the hell was I doing again? I don't even remember. So, I mean, like, it's funny now because Nintendo is that secondary console, though. But it's funny because when Mario came out, I didn't go, I need to stop. Why would I don't want to get Mario. I want to get Wolfenstein. No, you fucking get Mario and you shut up, because Mario is going to be a damn near perfect game. So, and to its credit, it's really, 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 really good.
Oh, it's crazy
really good. And again, I talked to my friend Brandon about this. I told him I felt like an idiot because the entire time I was playing the game, I was smiling. I'm like, I probably look like a psychopath playing this game, but I'm just smiling because it's so goddamn charming and it's so funny.
That was me. Like 2 days ago, I walked into GameStop. I had $200 in credit because I traded in a bunch of old crap, and I walked into GameStop and they had an SNES Mini on the shelf, and I was like, "Look, my daughter's 10 years old. This is perfect."
There you go.
I grabbed it. I brought it home. My wife's been sick, so we were trying to be quiet. But we sat down to the SNES Mini, and me and my daughter played Super Mario World for like 2 hours. And that's some of the most fun I've had playing video games in forever. It's just something about Nintendo's charm, man. It just overwhelms you.
Yeah, it's really weird because, last time I checked, I wasn't smiling when I was playing Shadow of War at times. I was fucking pissed. I was like trying to take over this fortress, and then some asshole pulls some cheap move on me, and I'm like, oh, great. It's funny because like I played Mario and I didn't get upset at Mario. I was just like, this game is so fun and it makes me so happy. So,
although there are some crazy hard platforming,
there definitely are, especially after the end game. Like when you get into like the extra stuff after you beat the game, when you go back to some of the worlds and some of the moons you have to get, you're like, oh, what is up with this? This is super difficult. But again, like, dude, like, I don't want to say spoilers for Mario, but, like, if you beat it, like, the ending will make you fucking grin ear to ear. It's the best. It's so good. That's all I'm going to say. It's really
I haven't beat it yet. I'm about halfway through it because I'm playing it piecemeal.
As soon as you beat it, I want you to message me back as soon as you beat it, and I just want to hear you just go, what the fuck was that? Like,
I've heard it was really good.
It's really good. And I'm like, again, it's just, I was smiling and giggling and laughing like a goddamn schoolgirl, but whatever. Dude, it was awesome. So it's, again, I would be scared, like, don't stream that game on Twitch because you probably look crazy. You look like a crazy person just smiling, playing, and laughing, but whatever, maybe some people like that, I don't know. So obviously now you're doing, like, again, you got back and forth between games, so you're like playing different games and everything, playing Destiny 2, all that and everything, and now you have a child. So do you encourage her to play games? Are you like helpful around that, or do you try to like hold her back from doing it as much? Or
no, if she wants to play something, I'll usually get it for her. She has a very unique taste in games, though. She likes the more passive type games. She doesn't really enjoy controlling someone per se.
Right.
She just likes to like she loves The Sims.
Right. My daughter does too.
She likes to place the tiles and, like let them do their thing once she sets it up. Right. She likes to see what happens.
I have a 9-year-old and she loves The Sims. Like, loves The Sims. And she has also gotten into, like, I have 4 kids, and all 4 of my kids play games and stuff, but each of them have their own, like, unique things, like, you know what I mean? Like, my 15-year-old really likes story-based games. Like, she doesn't live with me full-time, but when she visits, like, she doesn't have a PlayStation 4, so when she comes here, I'm like, I need you to play this game because you're gonna love it. I had her play The Last of Us, and she was like, this is amazing. She's like, this game is incredible. Because, again, story-based and all that. When she was here last time, she's, because I'm a huge Kingdom Hearts fan, and I got the 1.5, 2.5 like combo on PS4 that had basically every fucking game Kingdom Hearts has on there. So right. She's like, is this game actually really that good? I'm like, no, it's shitty. I just have a ton of posters and memorabilia. No, I love the game. Yes. What do you think I'm going to say? Of course I love it.
It's a Disney role-playing game.
I know. I was like, I really like it. Yes. And then she's like, okay, I'll play it. And she wouldn't shut up, dude. She just sat here and played it. And she's like, this game is crazy. And then the worst part was, though, is she started asking me questions about the story. I'm like, I can't fucking answer those questions. I'm like, first off, I haven't played these games in forever, and even when they were fresh in my head, I'm like, what?
I'm going to need to bring in a Kingdom Hearts historian on this one.
Let me go get a YouTube video to explain this shit, because I can't. Like, even when I was playing it fresh, like, she was playing, and it was so, like, but anyways, like, she's into, like, the story-based stuff. My son is all about shooters. Like, he loves Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2. Plays Dishonored. My 9-year-old daughter.
Dishonored's a hard game.
It is,
especially for a kid.
And he gets pissed. He'll just be like, Dad, how did you even get past this? I'm like, you can do it. You're fine. And then my daughter, though, my 9-year-old, though, she loves The Sims, but she also loves Minecraft, like the Telltale games, which
Right.
the only one she's really into is, of course, Minecraft story mode, because God knows I'm not letting her play Walking Dead or any of those other ones. Like, I don't want her freaked out, but no, she's like, the only 2 games she freaks out about, Sims and Minecraft story mode. When season 2 came out, first thing, we get in season 2, Dad? I'm like, well, if you want to spend your allowance and get it, I don't care. Do what you want. So yeah, like it's funny because and I don't know if it's a age thing or if it's just a gender thing. Like, of course, my son's all like, he's 12. He's gonna be 12 in like 5 days, and he's just, of course, into shooters and guns and blah blah blah. While my daughter's just like doing shit in The Sims, and she's all like passive, just having fun doing the Telltale game stuff. So I don't know what it is, but I mean, I know guys who are into the Telltale games, and I know females that are into shooters. So I guess, I don't know, it's maybe a combination of age and stuff.
With the way video games have branched out now, it's more of a personality thing nowadays, Like, they cater to such niche markets now. You have your people that, you don't want to swing a sword, you don't want to shoot a gun, but you want a good story, so they have that for you. They have a person that's like, I'm going to skip all these cutscenes and shoot everything in the face. They have that for you.
Exactly.
Everything's out there now. Like, my daughter loves Undertale, right?
Yeah.
And there's like 4 different ways to play that game. You can kill everybody, you can save some people, you can save everybody, or whatever. I've never played it. I don't really understand it completely, but she loves that game, and she plays nothing but pacifist runs.
Right.
That's all she talks about. Like, oh, I can't kill anybody. You have to do this without hitting the boss, and blah, 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 blah. And that's just her personality. She wants everybody to be happy. She loves everybody. She makes friends in like 2 seconds everywhere she goes. And that game caters to her personality. So I think that's just a big part of it nowadays.
Right. And I mean, I guess it depends on personality, because if you're like super aggro and you're like, I just want to fucking shoot things, and you're just like, yeah, you do that. Or if you're like Stardew Valley, that definitely doesn't cater to those aggro dudes that just want to play games and shoot people in the face, but
don't get me wrong, I love to shoot people in the face, but when you want to like relax and calm down, dude, Stardew is the best.
Yeah, so it's funny because like everybody has that one game where they can just like zone out and listen to a podcast and play a game. Mine is Skate 3. Like, I could just...
Such a good game.
And you know what's crazy? I literally screamed, what the fuck, at my TV on Wednesday. So I have an Xbox One X. I got Scorpio Edition, okay? They've been doing enhancements to games. Now
they're putting a 4K patch for Skate 3. Are you kidding me?
So they did Gears and Halo and Dishonored, and I'm looking at all of them, and there's like, you could filter what's enhanced and what's not, right? So you can see what will actually look significantly better. And then they started doing some 360 games. So they did Fallout, they did Gears of War 3, they did Oblivion, they did there was some other one, but then out of nowhere, fucking nowhere, on the enhanced list, Skate 3 showed up, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you talking about right now? And I go to play it, and it loads up the save and all that stuff, and I click on, like, and I check my TV, and it says HDR, which I'm like, oh, they just added HDR, that's cool, and it loaded my save, and I seriously was like, are you fucking kidding me? They updated the textures in the game. It's gorgeous. It is so good. It is so good. And I freaked out. I'm like, dude, who would have thought that I would lose my mind more at a 7-year-old 360 game getting enhanced than like Halo 5 or Gears 4? I freaked out. I was like, get the fuck out of here. This is the best thing ever. Those
games already look good. And then they tug on your heartstrings and bring up a game that you love and make it so much better.
Yeah. And here's where nostalgia fucks with your head, because I always thought Skate 3 looked good, right? Then as soon as I saw they did that, I turned on my 360, I put Skate 3 in, and I played on the same TV and everything, and it looked like trash, dude. It just didn't look as good, because now I'm all fucked up, because I'm like looking at all these nice clean textures. I go back and look, I'm like, dude, this game looks muddy and gross. And I literally was switching inputs just like with my jaw on the floor, like, dude, you got to be kidding me with what they did with the update. And as soon as I told my friend, I sent him a screenshot, and he just freaked. He's like, are you kidding me right now? He's like, who would have thought they would have given a shit to do that? And I'm like, dude, this just makes me want Skate 4 more now. Like, just shut up and make Skate 4, for God's sakes. That's all I want.
I couldn't tell you how many podcasts I've listened to that, like, people are ranting, oh, we really want Skate 4. We want Skate 4.
And EA's like, we're going to cancel single-player Star Wars games. And we're like, no!
Who's the developer?
It's EA. Oh, well, it's Black Box, which they aren't around. They aren't around anymore because they got rid of it. But, dude, I don't give a shit, EA. You could find somebody to make it. Just stop. Just stop. So maybe one day we'll get it. So, well, who knows? If people wanted to play any Destiny with you, because obviously you do play some online stuff, what's your gamer tag? What's your names and all that out there in the worlds?
It's a mouthful, and people hate to say it, so I'm going to spell it out. It's Mesozoic 25, which is MESOZOIC 25 on PSN. And do you care if I plug my Twitch real quick?
Oh, yeah, plug
Okay.
away, man. This is yours now. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. So on Twitch, I just started a thing. It's my buddy Will helped me set it all up and everything. Big shout out to my buddy Will. I'm going to be doing a raid Sherpa thing where I help people that have never done the raid before and teach them how to do it and kind of baby step them through it, because there's a lot of people out there that want to play it, but it's very difficult and it's hard to get 6 people together to do it. So if anybody's interested in that at any time or just want to hang out or whatever, my Twitch is Dr. Jurassic. That's DR_Jurassic. And real quick, big shout out to my Destiny 2 raid team. I love you guys. Cass, Exterminator, Cookie, Arthantos, all you guys, Koi, you guys rock, and I love you.
Well, and I'll have in the show notes, I'll have links to everything as well. So if people want to check him out on Destiny, check out his Twitch channel, I will have links to all of that in the show notes. So, dude, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it, and I definitely enjoyed your stories. Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I'll message you sometime.
All right. Thanks, man.
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
All right. And again, thank you, Daniel, for being on the show. If you guys want to catch him on Twitch or play some Destiny with him on PlayStation, I will have in the show notes links to his Twitch and also his PSN, so that way you guys can catch up with him online. If you guys want to be on the show just like he was, go ahead and send me a tweet at GUG Podcast on Twitter or at my personal Twitter, which is at MitchPower1116. Again, thank you guys so much for listening to this show. Again, if you guys want to share it with his friend, rate it on iTunes, want to be on the show, definitely hit me up and I'll be glad to have you as a guest. And I'm always happy to hear everybody's stories, and hopefully out there people are interested in hearing other people's stories as well as others' perspectives as well. So again, thank you guys so much for returning, and I will catch you guys next week. See ya.